Hi, my name is Konrad Keck and I'm the CEO and founder of PanelAlpha. I would like to thank you for choosing our platform. Enjoy your testing. Are you starting your journey with PanelAlpha? In this video, I'll show you how to install it and explain what to do next. Before we move forward, please note that you can find more in our documentation at panelalpha.com/documentation. It is the best source of the information with the most recent updates and detailed explanation. First, you need to obtain your license key. Once you've placed your order, it may take up to 24 hours during a business day for us to approve it. Of course, we'll do our best to do it as fast as possible. After the order is approved, you'll get a confirmation email so we can move forward with the invoice payment. When the invoice is paid, your license will be automatically activated and you'll receive the license key. You will get an email with the key and you can view it in our client area. The installation process is pretty simple. You need to organize a server with at least 4 GB of RAM and Debian 12. To provide a hosting environment for the WordPress instances, you need to organize an extra server. You can set up a shared hosting server with cPanel, Plesk or DirectAdmin, or you can organize a server that will use our Docker-based engine. Such a server also requires 4 GB of RAM and Debian 12. Once you've organized the server, please log in as a root user and execute the commands as in our documentation. You can also find the full command in your license activation email. The whole process takes around 5 to 10 minutes. At the end of the process, you will see two URLs that will be used by the system by default. The client area URL is the IP address of the server. Admin area is by default set to 8443 port, so you can easily lock it behind a firewall. You'll be able to change these URLs at a later stage, of course. The next step is our wizard, which will get you through the basic system configuration. Initially, the connection goes directly through the server IP address, so there is no SSL certificate installed by default. The wizard starts with the basic information about your company name, email address, and lets you set up your admin account password. The username to log in to the admin area will be that email address. Then, you can choose your branding for the client area. For the testing, I'm using our IMBS software logo and choose the yellow layout so it matches almost perfectly. Next, you have to connect your first hosting server to PanelAlpha. In this case, we'll use cPanel, but I've also created a separate video getting you step by step through the PanelAlpha Engine configuration that you can find in the description below. To configure the connection with a cPanel server, after entering the name, you have to configure the IP or hostname, username, and API token to connect to the server. The token configuration is pretty straightforward, as all you need to do is to log into your WHM, look for the API tokens in the menu, and generate one. Save the token and copy it to the configuration in the wizard. Then, we need to test the connection. In order to manage instances remotely, PanelAlpha needs to have the WP CLI installed on your server. The process is also pretty simple, as it just requires you to upload the files to the root catalog. For this purpose, I'm using WinSCP. Once the files are copied, you need to unzip the files and run the installation script. We can now test the integration. Just one note here, you need to have at least one cPanel account on the server to run the test. So if you have a clean server for testing, please make sure that you have created the user first. If the connection test has been passed, you can now move to the next step. We can now configure the first plans. Earlier, I have created extra packages in my cPanel to match the configuration, so I am setting them up here. Other than that, you can define the limit of instances for each of the plans. Now we can proceed with creation of the first service. We will create a test user and set their plan. The system will automatically create the service for them. And finally, the system will create a test instance. We only need to define the name and the domain. Please only remember that if you are not using a real domain, then the instance in the client area will be not fully functional. On the next step, we have an option to configure the most important integrations of PanelAlpha. All these tools are highly recommended for the maximum performance of our system. Starting with the DBIP, it is an IP address database that is used to detect who is logging in. If a user logs in from a new location, depending on the settings, they will get an email message informing them about that, so it is useful for security. Deactivation only requires you to agree with the licensing terms. Next, we have Google PageSpeed Insights, which is used for making screenshots and calculating page loading speed for the instances. The activation process is also pretty straightforward, as all you have to do is to enable it on the page linked in the description. You just need to get a key and copy it to the config field. Enabling Let's Encrypt lets you issue free SSL certificate for the instances. The activation is pretty straightforward, as our system automatically creates an account for you. All you have to do is to enter your email address and agree to their terms of service. That's it. You have successfully installed and pre-configured PanelAlpha. You can now move forward and manage the system. In the next video called PanelAlpha Concepts, I'm explaining the key system entities that will help you better understand how to navigate through our system.